You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
As we do this time every Sunday afternoon, it's a very warm welcome. James McOnie, good afternoon.
Elliott, how's it going, mate? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. Good to be back in New Zealand and watching some cricket. It would be better if the Black Caps could catch. Having said that.
Yeah, I know. That puts down a few chances, catches with matches, as they say. But, look, I think this just shows that when you're a team that's regularly playing Test cricket like England and seem to just have a bit more composure and are confident when their big guns aren't firing. I mean, Joe Root got a duck, right? So he was out after 4 balls, but Harry Brooks set them up with 171 for an innings that's really going to ensure that your team is in a winning position. But, you know, my main issue, I think, with this was just maybe in the selection. I sort of felt that there would have been room for a proper spinner. I would have liked to have seen, you know, I know Mitch Santner had a side strain, but I still believe in picking your best spinner for even tests in New Zealand. And then also, you know, Will Young, the player of the series in India, and can't get a gig. And I just thought after, you know, his average was 37 for the calendar year, and I think someone like Devon Conway, who's been slipping away a little bit, his average has gone from 50 down to 38. That maybe you just stay with the hot hand, stay with Will Young.
Well, yeah, I think the team you look at the moment, you got to go with the players that are in form, and they've picked some players that are woefully out of form rather than the ones that, as you say, have the hot hand.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing with batting is, I mean, I know Conway has been in there as an opener. Will Young has opened as well. Is that, you know, it's a confidence game, and taking that momentum away from Will Young, I think that's what's cost him his entire short Test career, is knowing that he might get dropped the very next game, and that's what's happened to it after a history-making series win in India. So it's just a few, I guess, what would you call it, like philosophical differences for me with the way that we pick our team.
Indeed. Speaking of philosophical differences, Scott Robertson is going to go to the New Zealand Rugby Board again on the eligibility matter and see if maybe there's a door that can open to players from abroad to play for the All Blacks again. What do you make of that? Whereabouts do you stand on this, James?
I don't think we can afford to pick players from overseas. I just think that once the floodgates are open, I mean, there might be, if there was a special dispensation, maybe there's that. But, you know, if you want Super Rugby and the NPC to survive, you can't just suddenly say we're picking from all around the world. It's as simple as that. But we know it's all about one person. It's all about Richie Mo'unga, right?
Mm.
So for me, if you're chasing, you know, Richie Mo'unga from 4 years ago, I mean, it's a bit like trying to get back with your ex. We've all done that, haven't we? You know, and it's a risk, and it doesn't always work. You know, and it's the same with rugby players. You know, there's a few more miles on the clock. They're a bit more stuck in their ways. They're always complaining about clothes on the floor and the amount of time you spend watching sport and where to go for Christmas. Sorry, I just got triggered there.
It feels like you've just brought up some repressed memories for you. Sorry, James.
Yeah. But you know what it's like. Are we going to get is he going to get the player that he really wants if he's going in for Mo'unga? And also, I just wonder what it says about New Zealand's development. I think with first five has been a real blind spot for us. I mean, France, they just chucked Ramos in there, who's their fullback, and they were fine, you know, like where we have got a big mental block over who plays first five and so much focus goes on it. I actually personally think it's one of the more fun and easy positions in rugby, and we shouldn't actually stress about it. You know, playing centre would be a lot scarier than just tucking in and playing first five. I think the way Ireland protected Johnny Sexton for years there, he could have played first five until he was 48, let alone 38. The way that they did that. So yeah, Mo'unga, I'm not 100% sure on that. Yourself, Elliott, you're the rugby reporter, the rugby editor.
Look, if they're going to do it, it needs to be very, very limited. It needs to be maybe one forward, one back, having reached a certain number of caps as sort of a thanks for your long service, appreciate it, and we still want you to be part of the the team. I wouldn't want it to become widespread, but I think there are certain limitations you could cap on it and go, okay, this player's given his all to New Zealand. He deserves to go make some yen abroad, and we still want him part of the All Blacks. But if you can make the restrictions and the qualifications for that pretty tight, I would be open to it to an extent, but you wouldn't want it to become widespread. Let's talk football, James, because Auckland FC have forgotten how to lose or have never lost.
What's that? Sorry, the Auckland FC. Yeah, I was just before we move on to that. I was going to say I think that's not a bad scheme. If they could do it that way, then maybe that's one way of selling it. But the players who make that sacrifice, then you've got to balance it out for them. Otherwise, there could be some floodgates opening. But yes, Auckland FC have just kept on winning and kept on keeping a clean sheet. Alex Paulson, I heard that he was before the Kiwi Classico, the derby with Wellington Phoenix, that he was so stressed out about that, really fearful actually how he was going to get treated down in Wellington. So he's been going on this really emotional roller coaster, playing for what is essentially the arch nemesis of his beloved Phoenix and being almost the best player on the park. And when he's up against the Phoenix again this weekend, so that's a story within the story, if you like. But really, just what they've done is they've recruited well. Moreno from Colombia, I think, scored yesterday. So even their imports have been not really well chosen, and they play a really good style. The only thing that I think is missing from them is creating a few more chances that are clear cut, and it's a little bit frustrating sometimes. They play these inverted wingers where you got someone on the left who's actually a right footer, so when they cut back in, they can shoot. But conversely, it means they don't necessarily cross the ball as well. So when they can sort that out, then I think they'll be scoring in bunches.
That derby next week's going to be huge, isn't it, at Mount Smart? Huge.
Yeah, sellout. I think it's 26,000 they're saying, so it is massive. And I mean, all eyes on the goalies, because last time the Phoenix goalie pretty much lost it for the Knicks. And then, again, Paulson, let's just see, the stress levels. He must feel, I mean, in terms of emotions, the most emotional game he's ever had, and he's having to back it up a few weeks later.
And just finally, James, tell me about this, what Tom Walsh and Hamish Kerr are up to, the Aotearoa Athletics Trust. I haven't heard of this.
Yeah, this is something that they're starting for young athletes. They're trying to help with the funding. It's really tough, I think, for athletes who are even getting towards Olympics or definitely world champs level to get any kind of funding. They're always having to juggle jobs and try and scrounge for sponsorship. So this trust is really there. Have a look online if you like, Aotearoa Athletics Trust.com. It's really designed to help the next generation of athletes, and you get the expertise of people like Hamish Kerr and Tom Walsh, who are behind it, to help you, as mentors. So when that sort of, I was there at the launch about a week ago, and they just invited a few key stakeholders and me. I don't know why I was there, but it was a free lunch, Elliott.
There we go.
So, yeah. And no such thing I have to talk about on radio now. But no, I think what they're doing really is trying to get away from the funding models that don't work for everyone. For every Olympic medalist and athlete, there's about 4 or 5 others who fall by the wayside and sometimes never ever realise their potential. I mean, just a recent example might be Eddie Nketiah, the sprinter. So if you're interested in that and you think that you'd like to, if you're keen on your athletics and you think it's an important sport, which I think it really is, then go to AotearoaAthleticsTrust.com and find out how you can donate and find out about their events. And in the case of Hamish Kerr, I think he's going to compete at least twice over the summer. I mean, remember, this is the Olympic gold medalist high jumper, and I think it'll be at the Cook's Gardens in Wanganui, so good old Wanganui's going to get a look at him, and also the national champs in Dunedin. So that's where you'll get to see the great man himself.
How good. I mean, you were obviously at Stade de France last year with me at the World Cup, commentating those games. I looked at Stade de France when I was there a couple of weeks back, and they'll go, that's where Hamish Kerr got the gold medal. That's where he got it. And he did the run around the track. It was so good.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and I didn't even make it to that, although I just think that, like, that moment is just so exceptional. We've never seen anything like that. I mean, Yvette Williams won it in the long jump, but, high jump in the modern era is just, we never see the New Zealand flag, anywhere close to the podium, and now we've got this guy who's right at the top. It's, it's something special for the sport, and also you can trace athletics back to a lot of, top sports people here in New Zealand in their past. There's Sonny Bill's been involved. So many of our rugby players, cricketers, were great at athletics and netball. So this is the thing. I think it's still really important, and go out there and support that sport, because this is where it's the building blocks, and we want to be part of a prestige sport. I think at the Olympics, the way we were in Paris.
Absolutely, James McOnie, as always. Thank you very much for your time on a Sunday afternoon. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Elliott.
That is James McOnie joining us as he does on a Sunday afternoon here on News Talk ZB and Weekend Sport.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.